Welcome to the Plat podcast. Uh, Here we are talking about North American Winter Split Regional Event 1. With me, as always, we got Wally.
What's up? How's it going?
All right, I am Vancer, and we're going to jump right into it. We've got a full 2 weeks of Rocket League to talk about. We're talking about the entirety of the North American Regional Event, and then we're going to talk about the grid that is going on as we speak for North America as well.
Yep.
So, where do you want to start with us? You can
I
start.
think we can go. I think we'll do kind of what we did last time. I like looking at it and then just
Mm-hmm.
going straight down and kind of doing that. Also, yeah, we can just do that. But we can look at V1 first. I think that'll be something
Look at version
interesting to
one.
kind of think about. I think the main thing to bring up with them is they were pretty good this time. And they haven't been having the best of luck
Mm-hmm.
this RLCS X in general. But I think both of us agree that Com is pretty legit and
Yes.
a lot of fun to watch. They beat Space Station. That was a big thing. We'll touch more upon Space Station in a bit. There'll be a little thing. They'll come up a lot though, but they beat them. Took an OT at Champions Field, and I believe Gimmick scored. Doesn't really matter, but they played definitely better in that game. Um, Even though it was a 2-1 overtime win, I felt like it was in most of it. Like they won the last couple game, like two.
Yeah.
It seemed like V1 was like always with them, and even if SSG was playing pretty well at a moment, but it was always like V1 is the better team right now in this series. So it wasn't even like a fluke kind of thing. They did get swept by Rogue instantly after, but that was the
Yeah.
next day, so can't look at that. But
Yeah.
then they did beat KCP and then barely lost to NRG. But the main point is just that they played so much better in this setting, which was really cool to see. And like Gimmick and Torment actually like played well, and then Com was like a nice, like not just a facilitator, but like just someone around them
Mm-hmm.
being like a positive thing for the team. I don't
Yeah.
know what else you wanted to add about it, but
I
I
just
thought it was
just feel bad for version one. Outside of Continuum, they had probably you could argue the roughest schedule, at least like highest percentage of
yep,
like top
yes,
teams. They go from Space Station to Rogue to KCP to Energy. Like those are all teams like at the Rogue I wouldn't have said was at the top until the end of this regional event, and they've kind of proved that they're a strong team as well. Um, but the honestly the biggest thing I'm gonna mention this off the bat because then we're gonna get deeper and deeper into the teams. This was the regional event of just crazy upsets. In the
yep,
first losers round, we see NRG, we see KCP, we see Space Station, XSET, Sonics, and the Peeps all losing
mm-hmm.
and going to the first round of the losers. Um, so this is like one of the most interesting brackets I've ever seen, and we
Yeah, I
probably
can
will
totally
see
come
for
with
the
you.
rest of the split.
Agreed. But yeah, V1 was definitely a nice bright spot to really kind of see in this one. That was a nice thing that they aren't super trash. So
Yeah.
that was good. I think the next thing we can mention is Rogue, which you just brought up.
Okay.
Um, Everyone on here knows I like Rogue a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And First Killer's my boy. Um,
Yeah.
but
No, we
First
got you.
Killer's really good at Rocket League, and he's a lot of fun to watch. And he played like it was like you always think about Justin being like the best like mechanical player, but the stuff that First Killer was doing this weekend was putting his Justin's money to work. Except then when one of the NRG series was oh my god by Justin.
Yeah.
But he First Killer played so well um here, and he it wasn't even just a dragging though. It was like he played super well, but this team is so much fun to watch. Kronovi goat. But he did not play and keep up with Turn on First Kill. Like the speed that the two of them have is so much more, and Taroko is just as ballsy with it,
Yeah.
and they're just high flying. So they beat Xset, they sweep V1, they beat G2 in five. Um, they get swept big time by Envy, and then they lose to NRG. But then those are the two teams in the final,
Yeah.
and you still have like you. I don't think anyone is going to say that Rogue's better than either of those teams.
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, it obviously proved it, but
I mean,
Them
yeah,
beating G2 was really big, and then they took 2 games off NRG, and they didn't look bad. The Envy one was bad, but they didn't look
yeah,
super lost versus NRG. And this was a high flying NRG team.
yeah.
Um,
Energy was on top of their
yeah,
stuff this
um,
in
but
this
Rogue
the
played
second day.
so well. And it was a ton of fun to watch them. Like they probably were they were up there as the most exciting teams to watch during this regional, and that's just not because I like them a lot, but
Yeah,
a ton of fun in general. It's just watch some of the plays that they were able to pull off. But it was it really I was texting you like during it and a little bit after it happened, but
yeah,
it was like they are now in my eyes like with KCP as the team,
yes,
and they're like and I'm not going to drop G2 down just yet because it's like one series that they didn't
yeah,
do super well in, and then they barely lost to PK that they shouldn't have. They should have just
yeah,
scored goals. Um, but that gap between because we had a big gap when we did our top 10 or whatever,
hmm
it's much smaller.
yeah.
With the Taroko acquisition.
Honestly,
So
all of I was
yeah,
a
the
big
plot
Plot
twist.
Twist
Yep,
fan, and their
yep.
breakup, I was sad to see it, but they weren't playing super great. But
Mm-hmm.
it just made all of North America so much stronger. You see where all of those players went, and every one of those teams has improved drastically. Um, I think my favorite move was Sosa to Pittsburgh Knights because for me that was like the perfect piece to fill in. I felt like he was gonna gel better with his team with that Knights roster than
Yeah,
Kinsey did,
yeah.
and we can see here it paid off big time.
Yeah, plot twist put they're all in the top 6. All
Yeah,
the 3 teams that each plot twist member, ex plot twist member went to, all made it to the top 6.
and that's insane considering they
Yes,
were. I'd say Pittsburgh Knights were. You could argue
barely,
maybe top 10. You could argue
barely 10.
and Ghost. I would have not said top
No,
10 at all.
no,
Like
they
not a
would have been
chance.
top 15, but
Yeah,
yeah.
top 15, top 20, but not definitely not near top 10. And
And then
both got
Rogue
in the top six.
is probably top 6, but this one was like they got to be third.
Yeah,
Um, which was the yeah the plot twist ex plot twist roster killed it this regional.
and we can let's just talk about the Pittsburgh Knights then while we're here.
I'm all for it. You go
They're
for it.
they were excellent. I didn't get to see a lot of them the first weekend. They swept KCP, which is a big surprise, and then they lose to
Mm-hmm.
Envy, which no one was really surprised by. But they go to the lower bracket, and we're like, oh great, they're running into Space Station. They go down 2 games, and then reverse sweep, and
Yep.
Space Station didn't score a goal in 3 straight games. It was insane. Alpine took the first game 5-0. It was just a great showing from the entirety of the Alpine roster. Like every player showed up, but then after that, Pittsburgh Knights just like shut it down, and then got a 1-0 shutout, a 1-0 shutout, and a 1-0 shutout in nearly 7 minutes of overtime. And that game 4 overtime had a combined total of I think like 34 shots and like 26 saves combined between the two teams, which is I don't know the records on that, but that's got to be something like near record as well. And if you see a team rebound from letting in 5 goals to no goals in the next 3 games, like they shut out SSG 3 straight to end a series, and they shut out Alpine 3 straight to win a series. That's that's really impressive for the Knights. They still somehow pull it out and like, oh well, great. Now they're playing against G2. Sure, G2 lost to Rogue, but they're going to be looking really good. G2 didn't look great at the start of the series, but by the end of it, G2 was looking fine. Just the Knights
Yep.
were they made every save they needed to on defense, and then they were hitting some unbelievable shots as well.
Mm-hmm.
Sosa especially, he had a couple double taps coming out of each corner, just dropping them in. Um, G2 didn't look like I said. G2 didn't look great, but in a 7 game series, you can afford that. Um, and as you can see, it's like it was close to the end. I mean, G2 won Game 6, 5-0. So like you'd still think they're kind of in the driver's seat, and Pittsburgh Knights managed to pull out a Game 7 victory. And then you're like, ooh, they get to play NRG. NRG's playing well, and then NRG just trounced them, which shows just how good NRG was on that day as well. If they're able to trounce this PK team that was able to take down all of these other teams. So it was a lot of fun to watch PK. I was also a fan of PK. I like Kinsey, but I liked ZPS and Radoko's kind of connection better. I liked watching them play more. And you take one of my favorite players from Plot Twist and put him onto one of my favorite teams in the Knights. Knights are now climbing that list for me in North America. And I hate to now just sound like a bandwagon, but I did like this team, and now they're just getting good. So I'm gonna reap all the rewards I can. But yeah, what did you think of the Knights this past two
The
weeks?
big thing that I think that a lot of people mentioned and I definitely saw was patience was their plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so clear during that G2 series if you watch it. So many of their goals were just like one of them would get a demo and the other one just slow playing the ball and then it would just walk in on an open net. And it's like you get the physicality, but then it's also you don't just bomb it. You don't have to play that way versus this super good G2 team. It's just like play your own game, and then if you're good enough, you will win. And if you stay true to that, and like their patience was so high. It also helped that G2 hit the bar
Oh yeah.
so many times,
Oh yeah.
which was rough to kind of watch, but it was a lot. There were plenty of those goals where it would just be someone on PK just being like, "All right, I don't have a lot of boost, but I'm just gonna go at him." And then their teammates are like, oh, "I got a demo, just move around him." And then they're like, "Okay." And then they just did like one little touch to the right, got by one guy, and then they would walk it in on an open net. And I was like, "That's exciting
Yeah.
to be able to do that." So yeah, Pittsburgh Knights are a lot of fun to watch. Excuse me.
Um, if we're still talking about this plot twist roster, we might as well just go along to Ghost if
Yeah,
you're
yeah, we
willing
can
to
do
do
that.
that. Ghost had a similar run where they to Pittsburgh Knights where they upset one of the biggest teams. They also get a sweep. Theirs was over 72 PC. Then they go on and in the second round of the upper bracket managed to beat NRG in a game 5 overtime. I got to see that series, and that was so exciting to see a team like just out of nowhere manage to dethrone NRG. Um, and it was yeah, it was just so much fun to watch because this is a Ghost is not a team I get to watch a lot of, um, and it was a big upset. Then they go on to play Alpine, and again similar thing to when Alpine lost to the Knights in the lower bracket. You're like, it's Alpine, they're also a good team. They have a chance taking it. Ghost run through them, and then they play Envy in the what is that the winners semis, and they managed to take Envy to a game 7 overtime as well. Like they held with Envy for 7 games and lost in a 3 minute overtime, like 3+ minute overtime. They go down to the lower bracket and see a rematch with NRG, and I was so excited for this series. I was like, oh, we're gonna see a rematch. Who knows, another upset for NRG? But that was NRG was not having it. They get a Brazil in game 1, a 7-0 shutout in game 3, and an overtime win for the 1-0 for the sweep. In game 1, Justin shot 4 for 8. He was absolutely on fire. He had 3 goals in I think like 13 seconds. Game 2, Justin went like 2 for 5. Game 3, 4 for 5. So he was through the first 3 games. Justin had 10 goals and over 15 shots, and he was just destroying Ghost single handedly. I think I heard a stat through the first 3 games, he averaged I think 750 ish points per game, and had a total points that was around the same as all of Ghost did through the first three
Yeah, there was
games.
some stat that I saw where it was like total point total for Justin in that
Yeah,
series, and Ghost is, and it was
they were
very
both. They were
similar.
both. I think it was like Justin was like 2,000 something, and all of Ghost was 2,200 through 3 games.
Yeah,
And I was just like, yeah, it was just a trouncing, and that was like I said, we saw Energy just going on this run, and then obviously, like I said, after they beat Ghost, they go on to Pittsburgh Knights, and trounce them as well. So it's like they and Energy,
NRG took
if
out all of the plot twist boys
they
back
took,
to back to
they
back.
did, yeah, yeah. Oh, they did, yeah, because they went from Ghost to Knights to Rogue.
You know,
Jeez, yeah, they were the
and then lost 2 games total.
yeah. and they upset version one's run as well, before that.
Yeah.
So they were definitely kind of playing upset for these, and United their roster change was a little further back, but any team that made a roster move, they ran into energy. It seemed like. Um, and now you can take the next series if you'd like, or if you have anything
Yeah.
to say about Ghost's
I
run.
think the two of us will probably. There's not much I have to say about Rogue. I mean, Ghost. You talked a lot about
Yeah,
them. They. It's. I think Ghost is. We talked about their decal and how much I like it. So, obviously going for that.
big fan.
Waiting for that to get back in the shop. But yeah. We just love the plot twist boys coming out and.
Oh, it was also fun to see Ghost
Yeah.
play Envy because Envy was the former Ghost roster. So I was excited to see if the new Ghost could beat the old Ghost, but not the case.
Close one.
Yeah,
Close one there.
yeah,
It would have been funny if they did beat Envy, but
yeah.
I think what we'll probably do now is we can just talk about. We're gonna talk about four teams basically that I think you and I can both agree underperformed big time.
Okay,
So we could talk about we'll just talk about Sonics and Peeps kind of together.
okay, yeah, because they
I don't
did
have
run into each other, so that's
I don't have
perfect.
much to really say about either of them, but other than they lost instantly, both
Yeah,
of them. Um, both in a 3-0 and a 3-1, so it was pretty ugly. And then they won their next ones in the loser round one, and then they met. And Sonics was so much better than the Peeps in that. I did get to catch that series,
hmm
so much better. So Peeps were bad.
well, actually,
Losers.
Sonics didn't lose right away. They at least beat Crimson Wings, but it also wasn't a very convincing win. They won it in five, but yeah,
Yeah,
then they just got stomped by G2.
they did get absolutely destroyed. My God, I missed that. And
Yeah.
then but they did look much better than the Peeps in that series that they had.
hmm
Peeps were just not playing well at all. There really isn't much to say. Just it's that Peeps were both in our top 10, and then they're out in the
They were like in our
losers
top.
round two.
Well, I guess they were in our top five because number five was
No,
KCP at the time.
no, yeah, I think they were 7 or 8
Yeah,
for both of us,
yeah,
6, 7, or 8 that range, and they're out instantly. They're out in like the region of Exet, Crimson Wings, and Loco.
yeah.
That's who they lost with, and so it was just rough to see it. Sonics with T. Carell looked much better than them. Like T.
hmm
Carell was a nut in that series. It was a lot
Yeah.
of fun to see him, and they just looked blind. It was like, oh, okay, they're pretty set, and then they lost in a game 5 to Alpine on a 3-0, like 3-0 in the final game of
Yeah.
championship. So it wasn't the best showing by either of those teams. Both of those were very poor performers. And they should be better. I think Sonics, in my opinion, should be beating Alpine. I think Alpine is pretty good.
Yeah.
I always take like I think I take a lot of cheap shots at Alpine, but it's like I think Sonics are better than them. Same with the Peeps, and
I
this
think I
just
agree with you.
they just
I
did not look
Alpine's
good.
good, but I just think Sonics and Peeps are both
Yeah,
better.
there isn't much to really say. I was gonna let you talk about KCP and SSG if you wanted to.
Yeah, sure, I can talk about them. Space Station, I didn't really even get a chance to watch because I missed a lot of the games on the first day. But I mean, they lost in their I think it was in their first game, wasn't it? Yeah, their first game of the day of this regional event was against version 1,
Yep.
and they lose game 4 and game 5. And game 5 in overtime as well to center the lower bracket, and that everyone was losing their mind. And then obviously, like I said earlier, after that NRG went down, so the like losers bracket was looking scary with a lot of these rosters in there. KCP, same thing. They somehow got swept by the Knights, which was a shock at the time, but now it just makes sense. Now we know how good this Knights roster is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then naturally, both KCP and Space Station then sweep who they run into in the first round because it's down to earth and 72 PC. They win their next round 3-1 against Crimson Wings and X set, and then that's when they lose. Funny enough, they actually cross paths. Version 1 beat SSG in the upper bracket and KCP in the lower bracket. Knights beat KCP in the upper bracket and Space Station in the lower bracket. So it's the same four teams all colliding again and just outdoing their opponents once again. Um, I didn't get to see. I don't I wanted to go back and watch the Knights SSG series because I saw it was 2-0 SSG, so I thought this series isn't worth watching. It'll be a sweep. Um, and then I was watching. I don't know who's. I was watching one of the like the I guess the other stream, and they were just
I think
like
they weren't. I don't think they were
I
on
think
the A stream.
yeah I think that was on the second stream. So I was watching the main
Yeah,
stream, and they were just like, am I reading this right? Pittsburgh Knights reverse swept Space Station, and I was like, oh. So I was like just as shocked as everyone else, but honestly, I really don't. Did you end up seeing that
I
series?
watched the Pittsburgh Knights SSG series. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Go for it because I
yeah.
didn't.
I didn't really. I don't remember who it was. I think it was version one KCP was the one, and I was like, I don't think they're as exciting to watch. Or it might have been E United NRG, and I knew
Yeah,
that.
I think it was United Energy at the time.
And I was like, NRG is probably going to beat E United. I mean, it went to game 5, so it was like,
Yeah.
and they reverse swept E United.
Hmm.
So that was pretty nuts. Um, but I was like, I like SSG. I like watching them a little bit more, and then Pittsburgh Knights is more exciting in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I popped in after they'd already gone up 2-0. I was like, oh well, this is gonna be quick. And then I didn't get to see a single SSG goal, so that was pretty funny.
Nice.
Um, through what I watched, but it was just like I talked about it earlier. It was just domination by Pittsburgh Knights. It was like typical would get a shot once in a while, but Arsenal was pretty quiet. Reynolds did basically nothing,
Yeah.
and Pittsburgh Knights just played much smarter. It wasn't they had to make some say like a ton of saves because SSG will take shots, but it wasn't like
It wasn't high
an
danger.
no, it was
Yeah.
not at all. And they I was very surprised. Pittsburgh Knights deserved to win that. Like I don't know why they lost the first 2 games, but whatever they decided to change, it worked so much better, and they took over completely. And they were talking trash about Reddles or something, which I thought was funny, because Reddles loves his trash talk.
Yeah.
But um, that's a series to go back to watch
Yeah.
if
Honestly,
you really want.
I
I
might
think
just go back and watch it. Even
that's
still.
one. The NRG and E United one was I didn't get to see it, but I listened to them talking
Yeah.
about it in
I
between,
watched
and then
it.
that was
Yeah.
pretty good.
And at this point now, it's like 2 weeks ago, so it's hard for me to remember
Yeah,
any details of it. But honestly, it was a very close series.
anytime there's a reverse sweep is a lot of fun.
And every single game decided by one goal. Both of E United's wins were in overtime, and then all of NRG's were in regulation. But every game was by one goal, and so it was really close. A lot of back and forth through the whole series. So it was and a classic reverse sweep, and also just the shock of NRG potentially losing in losers round 3. Like
Yeah,
they weren't
which would
even
have been
gonna
fast.
make it to like the quarter. Like they were still 2 rounds out of the losers quarters. Like
Mm-hmm.
if they had gone out there with Space Station and with KCP, like that would
Would
have
have been
been crazy.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's where we see KCP and Space Station's run end. They both lose to the same person the other team lost to. Um, so if anything, this is just it's helping solidify just how good Version One and Pittsburgh Knights are because they're both able to beat both of those teams.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the biggest takeaway from that.
And then the last 2 teams I think are clear and obvious ones that you could guess right now is
Yeah.
NRG and Envy. We don't really have I don't think we have much really to say except for us talking about the final and
I
stuff.
mean,
But
yeah,
we've talked about them.
every
We've hit upon them a
we
lot.
yeah we've hit them every time
They
every series they've come up in at some point
yeah.
basically.
So the main thing that I think we can say is for NRG is Justin played super well.
Garrett too,
Especially
honestly,
on
especially
in
in
the
the
last
final.
day. Garrett played very well in the final. The final was just different
The
breed
final
stuff.
we'll sit and talk about in full in a second here. Like we'll
Um,
leave the final for
yeah.
last.
So Justin played super well. I thought Squishy was. It's always like sometimes Squishy gets put to the back burner
Hmm.
sometimes, where it's like
Yeah,
Garrett's like been there for so long. Same with Justin. So it's like those are the two, and then Squishy's coming in, and there's a lot of stuff, but he just like he can't do what he used to do or
yeah.
something. But
He defaults to the third role just so that way Justin can do whatever he wants, and because Garrett has played with him so long, he knows what to do when Justin does whatever he
yeah,
wants. So
but Squishy
Squishy always just kind of plays
played really
safe.
nice.
Yeah,
I thought he was coming in clutch with some nice goals here and there that were necessary in case Justin was like getting absolutely demolished by someone, not just
yeah.
demos, but like trying to get held in where they're like, we need to focus on him, and then Squishy's like, I'll do some stuff.
It seems like
Um,
that's when Squishy shows up for NRG is when his two teammates are quiet. He'll have a game where he'll just score a hat trick, but then he won't have a goal for the rest of the series or something like that. Like he's just sort of like he'll have like one pop off game where he'll Squishy can just steal a game and then wait for
yeah,
his teammates to get back into form. Is one thing I notice how he plays with NRG.
yeah. And when we talk about the grid, we can talk about that because that's exactly what's happening right now, actually. But in real life,
Oh yeah.
while we're recording this, but the not much really say about energy. They had to go to the lower bracket, which we talked about, and then they were
Mm-hmm.
kind of riding that. And it was like, ooh, are we gonna make this big lower bracket run? Are we doing this? And then they got through the reverse sweep versus United, and then they ripped through V1, Ghost,
Dude,
PK,
the
Rogue.
V actually let's the V1 series was a lot closer than you're making that to be. That V1 series was actually a
I
lot
mean,
of
it's
fun to
just like
watch.
they're on that, like that's the
Yeah. Oh
start
yeah.
of their
They
tail.
had their
Yeah,
momentum, but yeah.
yeah. So then the V1 series was a lot of fun. Yeah, we talked about where it's and yeah, it's not that it was an easy dub like type of thing, but
Yeah.
they're on their lower bracket run, which they wanted to enjoy a lot, and
Yeah.
so this was just a team that it took them a little bit longer, but right after they beat V1, it was like game over for anyone in their way, except Envy. But um,
Well, yeah. With
that's all.
yeah with
That's not. Yeah, you go.
with the Energy United series too. Um, like we talk about how United nearly swept NRG, but like I think I heard a stat where it was like that was game one was United's first win against NRG in like four series. Like every time they play, NRG sweeps them. So like United playing well as well as NRG probably not playing well nearly led to a collapse there. And then when they played version one, like version one was looking really good. Like I think game one, Torment had over 1,000 points. Like he had 10 saves as well
Yeah, the
as
10 saves.
both the goal or two of the three goals, including the overtime winner. And the world record, or like I guess the RLCS record is 12. So he was two saves off of the record right now, for that game. And then game five, 0 seconds. Gimmick puts a shot off the upper corner post crossbar down. Game over. Like they were
Yeah,
inches
they were
from
very
sending it to a
close.
game five overtime. Um, it was and just a lot of back and forth as well. It was pretty wild. All right, yeah, I think we can talk about Envy. There's not much to be said about Envy because, as we said earlier, they sent the Knights down, they sent Ghost down, and they sent Rogue down. Everything Envy had done up to this point, we've already talked about. But if you want to get into any specifics, you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, not really. It was just them
Okay.
going through the winners bracket. There's not really much to say. We can just talk about the final, which was fun.
Okay, yeah. Envy, I think Envy's first game on the mainstream was the final, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was their series against Rogue.
Yeah, it was the Rogue one.
But yeah, they were looking really good against Rogue, and so obviously NRG was on a tear as well. So this was just a battle of the Titans for the final, and this single series might be the best series of Rocket League I've ever seen. I think
It's definitely for me. I've watched less Rocket League than you.
for number two, it was that Dignitas Vitality season 8 Worlds, like that was unbelievable, and that was like it was that game was what got me into Rocket League. And I guess with that, it's less so the series and more just that amazing game 6, I think it was. Um, but here with this series, the entire way through, this is one to watch for sure. You had 5 straight overtime games to end the series. It's yeah. We can start talking about the final now if you have anything to say.
Um, it was just basically the most topsy turvy thing I'd ever seen, and how it just kept going back and forth. It was like you don't know who. There was a couple moments where you were just, and we were talking about it in our Discord. It was just like, oh man, we wanted this bracket reset. Like, dang, like because when it got up to 3-1, and then and you're just thinking, all right, they'll definitely pull one out here, and then NRG won the next two, and you're like, oh, so we're going to a game seven, and they have the momentum now, and NRG's momentum today has been unreal. So is this like gonna happen where we're gonna actually get to see a bracket reset? And I'm not gonna bet against anyone right now because it's so close, but it was just. I mean, it's like not even words can really describe it. It was just
Yeah.
insane
It,
in every aspect of it, and it was. I'm glad that it ended in overtime, kind of thing, because it would have been lame if it was just a regulation one and it was just
mm-hmm.
like one team like clearly won it. It would
Yeah.
just like I like that
I
it
mean, yeah,
was like
you can't get any better than Game 7 overtime. Like, you just can't.
yeah, and it's also two and a half. It's almost basically 3 minutes extra.
Yeah.
So it's like, and it was neither team was backing down. It was very end to end, high octane Rocket
Yeah.
League being played, and it was a ton of fun to watch.
Over the course of the series, there were about 9 minutes of overtime
Yeah,
in total.
that's just insane.
Yeah.
And then the 4.5, the 4:15 one was just in game four was such a nail biter there.
Oh yeah.
But it's like hard for me to really say anything else other than how insane it was. Like
Yeah.
you have to just watch it, honestly.
To get into some of the nitty gritty, I think honestly where Envy succeeded and where Energy failed came down to teamwork. I feel like almost all of Energy's goals were off of highlight plays. It was Garrett getting a flip
Yes.
reset and dropping it down to Justin. It was Justin hitting a flip reset and scoring on it. It was Garrett hitting an insane double tap, Justin hitting a fake. Like it was all very one specific. Like a player does this amazing move and either pass it off and they score, or they just score it themselves. Whereas Envy were clinical with their infield passing, and it was just like their energy in game 4 and game 5 went up 3-0 in both of those games. Um, and Envy came back in game 4 to tie it 3-3. NRG takes the lead, and then with I think like 11 seconds left, and then Atomic calls for a fake kickoff, goes and gets the boost on the left side of the kickoff, pass over to him, pass to the center for I want to say Turbo, and he buries it. Like
Yeah, that was
it was
insane.
in like 11 seconds left, and you go for a fake kickoff, and they get to overtime, and then they win that game in overtime
Yeah.
through 4 minutes. And I think they probably won it on a similar play with an infield pass, and that's how they also won Game 7 overtime. Was another infield pass to Turbo. Like those plays were really what set them apart. And then game 5, same thing. NRG goes up 3-0. Envy gets all the way back and ties it up. They go to overtime, but 35 seconds in, they win that one. I can't remember who scored it, but obviously it was on Energy, so chances are it was a highlight reel goal. Um,
Probably.
but yeah, it was. One thing I also noted, just very specifically from Game 7, is how little Garrett G did. you go, you watch Game 7. Like Game 7 was just a nail biter, so I didn't notice until I got to overtime. Justin had around 1,200 points, and Garrett hadn't even hit 100 yet going into overtime. I think he was around
Yeah.
like 80 something, which was kind of insane. But yeah, this whole series was it's unfortunate that you now know the outcome, because not knowing the outcome in a Game 7 overtime is kind of what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
But I am glad it. I'm kind of glad Envy won in that Game 7, just so this series is done. Like if it went to a bracket reset and one of the teams just blew, like the bracket reset series wasn't as good as the first series,
It would have just overshadowed this.
it would have kind of tainted it. But the fact that it was an amazing series and it just ended, and we got our nice neat bow on top. It was a perfect ending to a regional.
Yeah. There's not much else to really say. It was just god tier, and then
Yeah.
obviously Turbo's in there because he is the god of Rocket League.
Yeah, yeah. Like you just don't bet against Turbo in Game 7 of any sort of
Yeah.
anything, because he's always the one who'll score the overtime winner. So
But yeah, this regional was so much fun.
it was really good. And it's funny, we didn't do a podcast last week because we're like, sure, there were some upsets, but we don't have a lot to say about them. And then of course we're like, we'll just make a longer one next week. And there was so much to talk about
Yeah.
for that second weekend. Um, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's the closest I've ever like actively watched other scores, and I think I'm like actually gonna go back and watch games I missed, where sometimes I don't, but like I need to go watch that night's SSG series.
yeah, you should.
And actually, I didn't see the version one against SSG either, so I might just go and watch
You should
SSG
watch that
lose
as well.
twice.
They were both fun.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna go watch those probably tomorrow before the next regional starts back up again. Um, and I guess we can talk about the grid that's going on right now if you want.
Yeah, we've got NRG SSG in the
Oh
final.
yeah. Oh, they both won in five.
Yeah, there's like this one. Like I remember we talked about the first week, and it was just like, okay, um, we didn't watch any of it, but you could just look at who has made it into the round of 16 and how they matched up, and you're like, we know who will win, and then they
Hmm.
did, and then it was pretty plain and simple about the rest of it. It might have been like it was tough to get like to bet for or against anyone when it's like the top teams. So,
Yeah.
but this one so much different.
Yeah.
You just look at it. Jamal Jabari's back. We were talking about that.
Yeah. The Bosif Jamal Jabari became Bosif, and now Bosif dropped him, so they're back to Jamal Jabari. So
Yep,
there you go.
we'll love to see the name change,
Yeah.
but um, we got NRG beating them, and then we got Charlotte Phoenix beating G2, um, and Charlotte Phoenix went 1-2 in like the group, so that was
Hmm.
that's a big that and the G2's better, but not today. Um, KCP beating Envy, and KCP went 0-9 in their games
Yeah.
for the groups. They didn't win a single game. Um, in
And
playing
that was
Charlotte
yeah.
Phoenix V1 or SSG,
Hmm.
teams that they should clearly be the second best team in there. V1's getting up there, so it's much closer between them,
Yeah.
but they should still be better than them. But
Yeah. I if before this grid, I still probably would have put KCP above version one, but version one continues to trend up, and KCP continues to trend down, and especially getting swept by Charlotte Phoenix wasn't looking good. But then they just go and beat Envy, who we were just talking
yeah,
about
they
how they
did
looked
just beat
unbeatable.
Envy. Um, United beat Ghost, nothing super insane there. SSG beats Alpine, which is expected. And then Rogue loses to Continuum, and
Yeah, that's
Continuum was 1-2 in their thing, and Rogue I think was 2-1. Yeah, so that's and Continuum is not as good as Rogue, but again, not today. Peeps beat PK, and we were just raving about them for the last 40 minutes of this
yeah,
podcast, and talking about how bad the Peeps were. And then Sonics beat V1, who we were talking about how good V1 has been,
yeah.
and we talked about how Sonics faltered. So it's just insane there. And then you look at the next round though, but you probably expect NRG to beat Charlotte Phoenix. The United KCP one went to Game 5. That was a super tight series. Almost was a reverse sweep by KCP. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Super easy sweep for SSG. And then the
The
Peeps
Peep
sweeping
Sonics
Sonic.
rematch.
Yep. And then the Peeps got him this time.
Yeah.
Two OTs there. And then I was just looking up at my screen during while we were recording this, and that was for the semis. And NRG and SSG were just clearly better. The
Yeah.
United one, they got very close.
I mean,
Both,
three overtimes, and again,
yeah,
again against NRG.
that one was pretty close, but the SSG was much better than the Peeps. But I'm excited in the next 5 minutes it'll start up for the NRG SSG, and we'll bring up who won next time.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
yeah,
also want to mention,
it's super fun.
we're looking at like you were talking about the playoffs, but also like the group stage had some surprising upsets as well. Like Group A was NRG United Continuum. Group B Knights, G2 Ghost Alpine. Group C Space Station Version One Charlotte Kansas City. Group D was Envy Rogue Sonics Jamal Jabari. Jamal Jabari beat Envy, and again, coming off of how amazing they were, like how did they manage to beat Envy? I have no idea. They did it in five and won the last two games 3-2 after 3-2 and 5-2 after getting shut out in games 2 and 3. Like I have no idea. Rogue sweeping Sonics, Envy sweeping Sonics, like and then Sonic sweeping Jamal Jabari. Right at like it doesn't make any sense. Like
I think the
North
grid is
America.
just tough.
Oh, yeah, the grid is definitely tough, but I mean, all of North America flip a coin, and that's who's gonna
Yeah.
win at this point. Like we're seeing so much crazy stuff going on. KCP swept by Version 1, swept by Charlotte, and swept by and SSG Version 1 and Charlotte. And then they beat Envy. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh Knights beat G2 in the regional event. Oh, that's probably just a slip up. G2 is still probably the better team. They beat them in the grid too. Pittsburgh Knights beat G2 in 5 games again, taking it down to the wire. And then Peeps went 1-2. The only team they were able to beat was Continuum, and Continuum managed to beat United, which doesn't make any sense because they've been able to compete with NRG as we've seen. So it's really strange how a lot of these teams go. And I think honestly a big part of it is, at least for the higher teams, it's knowing who they're playing. Like, because Envy knows how to play against NRG, they don't know how to play against the Jamal Jabari, I guess. Or G2 knows how to play against a KCP, but not how to play against a Charlotte Phoenix. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's crazy. I still feel like they should be able to beat those teams. Like that's kind of the whole point of you being a good team.
I agree.
But it's crazy. North America is in a wild place right now, and it's kind of
Yeah,
nice because Europe is so predictable. It's just you know wait until the regional event ends, and then watch Vitality and BDS play again, and that's your winner.
yeah,
Um, and I think North America is now, thanks to this regional event, I would now much rather watch North America over Europe. Um, with the way these teams have changed, I like a lot of them now because I think I liked more teams in Europe more, but now after all of this going down, it's fair game,
yeah.
honestly, for a lot of these
I
North
think
American
I've liked
teams.
watching NA a little bit more.
Um,
I think it's just more
So yeah,
exciting. But yeah,
Energy Space Station are about to play. We'll talk about that grand final for the grid week. Is this week 2 or week 1?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, grid week 2 for North America. We'll talk about that for our next podcast if we remember, obviously. Um,
we will. We're good.
okay. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was a lot of Rocket League to talk about. A lot of actually I have very big news. Kronovi is playing with Zero Issue. Zero Issue I think dropped their entire team and now have another full roster. False, Brisky, who I don't know either of those players, but they now have Kronovi. So Kronovi's back on a team, and that's all there is to it. He's back on a team, and who knows, that could make that team good, and they could start showing up. Either way, Kronovi's back in RLCS. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, it's a
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Um, this has been the Plat Rats podcast. As always, I'm Vancer. Wally always by my side, virtually, of
yep.
course. Um, and yeah, we'll be back again and talk some more exciting Rocket League. I look forward to it.
Sounds good.
All right,
See ya.
bye.